Hey, Viking fans, this is Keith Millard, and you are listening to the One Bar and Lupicus Show. Go Vikes!
All right, welcome back to the One Bar and Lupicus Show. I'm One Bar. In this episode, we're talking about 5 surprise cuts the Vikings could make this offseason, this training camp. And we see surprise cuts every damn year. When we get down to that 53, there's some guys that are cut. You're just like, holy shit, I can't believe they got rid of them. So that's the guys we're talking about. Remember, the key word is surprise. I don't really see these happening, but they could be a sneaky surprise cut. So we're going to talk about 5 of them. Remember, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let's get to that 3,500 subscribers. And also, it appears as I was mowing the lawn today, I should have put sunscreen on my nose. Let's do this. The first surprise cut I could see the Vikings making is a big man in the middle, former 6th-round pick, Armond Watts. Watts, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just have unrealistic expectations for him, but I thought he might be a steal in round 6. I thought he's a guy that, looking at the Vikings depth chart at defensive tackle when he's drafted, like, you know what? He could see some playing time early. He could be a guy that could get after the quarterback. And we've seen glimpses. We've seen a little bit, but last year I was really thinking he was going to break out. We had a very, very gross depth chart at defensive tackle. This was his moment. This was his moment to get a ton of playing time. And he just hasn't really shown up. He just hasn't done it. We know what the Vikings did at defensive tackle this offseason. They beefed the shit out of that, adding to Michael Pierce coming back from opting out next year. The defensive tackle position is suddenly appears to be a nice little strength for the Vikings. So Armond Watts, I think he's going to be battling for a spot on this roster. This is going to be dependent on a handful of things. What are they going to do with Jalen Holmes? Holmes is a guy they put at defensive end, defensive tackle, a little bit of a tweener. James Lynch, a guy that last year's 4th-round pick that really didn't do jack shit last year. Hercules Mataafa. So it's going to be interesting, but Armond Watts could be a guy that they just say, you know what, we're good at this position. We got some younger guys, maybe like a James Lynch that maybe they won't see the field a ton, but we just can't let him go. So Armond Watts could be the odd man out. I think he could be a surprise cut. Next up, BC Johnson. Again, another late round guy that really showed up, especially his rookie year. Last year, they started out training camp saying he is the number 2 wide receiver. It was not Justin Jefferson. We all knew that was BS. But anyways, he still didn't really get much action out there. He had 14 receptions. When they do give him a chance, I'll definitely give BC Johnson some credit. He does a good job, but he just doesn't really have that it factor that really sets him apart from some of these other guys. And the Vikings they have 4 rookies on the wide receiver depth chart right now between the draft and undrafted free agent. After the draft, they really went crazy signing some of these undrafted free agent wide receivers. And I think some of them might add a little bit more, where they might look at BC Johnson and say, he's just expendable. I mean, you look at special teams like a Wap Fillier, you look at the Pro kid, he looks fantastic. Fantastic as a guy that could really be a sneaky guy to make the team or actually contribute in a year or two. So BC Johnson could be a guy to keep your eye on. It's just kind of a swamp after you get past the first 2 receivers. Yes, Chad Beebe will probably make it, but after that, it's just one of those swamp pops you used to make at Hardee's, where you'd go down the line with your cup and just put every type of pop in there, because you don't know what you have there. And it's kind of gross, just like swamp pop. So BC Johnson, he's another one. Next up, Troy Dye. You might think I'm nuts here. 4th-round pick last year, but we got 3 4th-round picks alone in this year's draft. So I'm not putting too much into the whole, he's a 4th-round pick, he's definitely make the team, because along with Troy Dye, James Lynch, he should be shaking in his little booties as well. And at linebacker with Troy Dye, he PFF, again, I'll say this every time I bring up PFF rating, hate it, love it or hate it, he had a 28 last year, a 37 in pass coverage. Troy Dye, when he was drafted, was looked at as a guy who's very athletic and could be a really nice piece to use in the pass game as a linebacker. And he had a 37 in pass coverage. He was just kind of a mess. Young, we knew he was going to be a little bit raw, but he was rawer than Lupicus on a Sunday morning. It didn't, he never really gave me a ton of hope. Like, holy shit, this guy is going to be good in the future. Not writing him off. I don't want the Vikings to cut him, but you have to also look at the other guys they brought in. Chaz Surratt, clearly he's making the team. We got Barr, we got Kendricks. And then again, like receiver, it gets a little murky. You got Ryan Connolly, you got Blake Lynch, you got Nick Vigil. So Troy Dye, just because he's a 4th rounder does not mean he's going to make this team whatsoever. He could be a piece that they just look to continue to play on special teams and hope develop at linebacker. We know that Anthony Barr's final year is probably this year, so it's going to get thin. It's going to get thin real quick. We will see, but Troy Dye is another name. And the next guy up, Chris Boyd. Chris Boyd, again, another late round pick, but a guy that has seen the field quite a bit. I think this is going to be really heavy on what happens with Jeff Gladney. Again, cornerback like defensive tackle is a position that the Vikings put a ton of effort in the offseason for free agency. We know the guys we brought in, and Chris Boyd's name is just kind of getting bumped down the list a little bit. And also not just the sexy names we brought in at cornerback, but there's guys like Ty Smith, Perry Nickerson that will be in the mix. Chris Boyd, a guy who's, I think, plays very well against the run, pass coverage, little shaky. Is he ever going to be a starting cornerback? Probably not. I like him as a depth piece, but he is a name that is also, I think, possibly a surprise cut. And the final one, Dakota Bulldozer. And this isn't because he's good. It's just it would be a surprise that the Vikings actually got rid of him. They continue to bring him back, so it would be a surprise like, holy shit, they actually got rid of Dakota Dozier. But this year, maybe this is his year. We know we brought in some guys, Wyatt Davis, draft pick that everybody loves. Everybody's going to be pulling for to start. But Mason Cole, another name to really keep your eye on for that right guard position. Mason Cole, they give up that 6th-round pick to get him. And then Kyle Hinton, just a name that's been out there that we've hoped to see what he can bring to the table. But if somebody else wins that job, like a Wyatt Davis just wins that job straight up, and they can have a guy like Mason Cole backing him up, I don't see the point of having Dakota Dozier. We know what he does in the field, and it's not good. So I have Dakota Dozier as the final guy who could be a surprise cut. Those are my 5 guys. Once again, let me know in the comments below, who is your surprise pick? Which of these guys that I just mentioned has 0 chance of getting cut, and I am a complete moron? Let me know. And remember, subscribe, like the channel. We're here every damn day talking Vikings.